It's no secret that Sony's Spider-Man universe is working on building a foundation that can rival other cinematic universes, and Morbius is supposed to be the next step. Starring Jared Leto, Matt Smith, Adria Arjona, Jared Harris and Tyrese Gibson, it follows the origin story of one of Spider-Man's most notorious adversaries, Morbius the Living Vampire. The newest feature in the shared canon has a conclusion that clearly indicates plans for sequels, but is it worth the watch?
Allow me to break the ice.
We covered the biography and powers of Morbius in the lead up to the film's release a few months ago, links in the description. And in it, we mentioned the character was set to appear in Stephen Norrington's Blade, and is actually in a deleted scene portrayed by the director himself. Almost 2 decades later, in 2017, Sony announced plans for a new shared universe featuring Spider-Man related properties, beginning with Venom. That November, Matt Sazami and Burke Sharpless submitted a script to Sony for a Morbius adaptation, and Jared Leto became loosely attached to star in the title role, but would not commit until he was happy with the director, which should have set alarm bells off.
No shit.
After choosing Daniel Espinosa, who previously directed Life in 2017 for the studio, principal photography began in February of 2019 under the working title Plasma and lasted 12 weeks. In September, while the film was in post-production, Sony announced a new agreement with Disney. As part of the deal, Feige stated that moving forward, the MCU's Spider-Man would be able to cross cinematic universes and appear in Sony's shared universe as well. And so, to better fit Morbius in the evolving nature of these shared cinematic universes, reshoots began in Los Angeles the following February, and the release date was pushed back to March 19, 2021. Word was also getting out that Jared Leto's method acting was creating hurdles for the crew. In an interview, Espinosa confirmed that Jared was so obsessed with the physical limitations of his character that he would use Michael's crutches even when the cameras weren't rolling. Unsurprisingly, this self-indulgence and the amount of time it took him to walk around the set between shots delayed production. Espinosa continued that he supported whatever meant Jared delivered a good performance, which is director speak for he was an absolute pain to work with. While the talented Espinosa wanted to make a good film, Leto was more concerned about himself, and Sony were only interested in squeezing this film into the cinematic universe. The company even inserted mentions of Spider-Man in the trailer without Espinosa's knowledge that was not in the film. It's no surprise then that with these conflicting objectives, the film was delayed again, first to October 8, 2021, and then to January 21 of the following year. While the closure of theaters was blamed, concern was brewing that perhaps the film was actually in horrible shape. The release date would be pushed back again to January 28, 2021, before another delay to April 1st. And here we are. Born and raised in Greece, Michael and his surrogate brother Lucian, renamed Milo, bond over their unique blood illness and desire to be normal. Sent to New York to attend medical school by their adoptive father and hospital director Dr. Nicholas, he began work on a cure for his condition with his colleague Martine Bancroft. Despite his physical limitations, he was intellectually gifted and in time would become a highly respected biologist with a degree in hematology that he would use to find a remedy. To this end, he uses vampire bats from Costa Rica in the hope of splicing their genes with his own to cure his condition. After telling his brother and father what he planned on doing, he receives funding to conduct the experiments in international waters under the supervision of mercenaries. And though it cures him of his affliction, it transforms Michael into a living vampire who instinctively kills and drains the blood of everyone on board except for Martine. Returning to New York, he comes to grips with his newest affliction and the powers it grants him, from superhuman strength, speed, reflexes, echolocation, to the ability to glide, while satiating his thirst with synthetic blood that gradually ceases to satisfy his needs. As we learn at the end of the film, he also has the ability to bring back people from the dead and turn others into living vampires, like his comic book counterpart. For a vampire film, this movie is afraid of blood, and we see very little of it in the action scenes, and to satiate the PG-13 rating, he's drinking blue synthesized blood from this point. At the same time, FBI agents Simon Stroud and Al Rodriguez deduced that Michael is involved in the bloodbath. The focus goes from Morbius to the detectives who investigate the string of murders, but they don't achieve anything but reference that Venom exists in this universe. Furious that Michael is cured and refusing to help him, Milo goes against his brother's wishes and injects himself to have the same abilities. But feasting on human blood rather than Michael's synthetic blood results in him transforming into a supervillain. The biggest difference in their abilities is how long they last. Because Milo has no problem constantly feeding on human blood, he's essentially stronger for a longer period of time. After killing their adoptive father, Milo continues his rampage by attacking Martine to draw his brother out, and when Morbius drinks her blood, he unknowingly transforms her into a living vampire too. In the final confrontation inside an underground cavern for ambience, Morbius reveals his ability to create vibrations that summon thousands of bats to his aid. Using the swarm as a distraction, Morbius injects his brother with an anticoagulant that kills him. Instead of an epilogue that gives us a sense of conclusion and indication of where the characters are, we then see a crack in the sky and Adrian Toomes transported to Michael's universe. After getting out of jail, having committed no crimes in this universe, Vulture tells Morbius that people like them should team up against Spider-Man. And despite Morbius not really being a bad guy just yet, not knowing who Spider-Man is, and having no reason to trust Vulture, he agrees.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
Bullshit!
Sony is clearly trying to do a Sinister Six team-up at some point soon, but Vulture has no impact on this film whatsoever. It's so out of place and rushed. Morbius just feels like a relic, a low-effort superhero movie with CGI from the 90s. One of its biggest problems is how lazy and uninspired the story is, which doesn't seem concerned with adding complexity or depth to its characters. And for a Sony Marvel film, there's surprisingly very little humor. The editing is all over the place. The camera rumbles violently during extreme close-ups, and fight sequences consist of either slowed down bullet time, poor lighting, or both. It's just really painful to watch. Leto is okay, and I really liked him in the first act, but his Morbius is lacking in the charisma needed to carry a superhero movie. He takes everything too seriously, like he did with his Joker, and if it weren't for the colour that Smith brings with his delightfully over-the-top performance, the movie would be really boring. I don't understand why they went with another PG-13 adaptation when this should have been R-rated. Morbius has many tonal similarities to Blade, and an adaptation that was dark, gritty, and not afraid of blood would have suited it better. At least then, even if the story is nonsensical and motivations paper thin, you have the schlock to look forward to. Speaking of Blade, I couldn't help but notice that they borrowed the plot from the first film. Everything from using synthetic blood, having a female hematologist working with the hero to develop a cure, an antagonist that is part of the family, to the hero feeding on the one they love to have the strength needed to defeat the villain. Blade stuck to the source material, trusted its dark subject matter, and refused to compromise on the rating. The source material for Morbius is just a watered-down version of whatever worked in Blade. The appearance of Keaton in the post-credits doesn't help bridge a connection to the Spider-Man universe. It only reinforces how incoherent this story was. It feels less like Morbius is being added to the cinematic universe, and more like Vulture was being inserted into Morbius for legitimacy. It's not fan service, it's franchise servicing.
No sequel for you.
But I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and yeah, if you have any other suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. As always, it's been a pleasure. Niyat here with Film and Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.